evening, folks. This is your Factivist report for Sunday, the 5th of February. So we had planned on a show already until I raised the alarm on, I believe it might have been Friday night. I actually think that people really haven't got a clue what Joe Biden and the Biden administration, not just him, but his administration, has managed to do in the post-Trump era. And in a time when, frankly, our legislature is owned by MAGA Republicans. And I think it's about time people understood what he has been able to accomplish under these circumstances. You know, if you had asked me when Joe Biden chose to run for president, if I would ever say this, I don't think I would have. But Joe Biden, quite frankly, I've been doing this now for many years. Joe Biden is one of the most progressive Democratic presidents we've ever had since President Kennedy. And part of that is because the squad and everybody else has indeed pushed him to the left. And Pramila Jayapal, who is the head of the Progressive Caucus, has said that it has been an amazing thing to watch him evolve and move himself more to the left. And he does this because he listens and he asks questions. And this is what you want in a president. So without further ado, I'm going to give this to Dave, who has got a Biden administration accomplishment show. And everybody needs to pay attention to this because I hear all kinds of shit out there. We don't want him again, blah, 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 blah. You know what? Personally, right now, we have one choice to save this country, and it's to vote against the GOP. And that includes third-party people. I'm telling you right now, you've even got Ralph Nader telling people to vote Democrat. You need to wake up. So here we go.
You have Ralph Nader, and you have the Lincoln Project, and you have moderate Republicans, and you have people from everywhere saying that this is your shot. You have people who disagree with Biden. Joe Biden has been a politician since 1973, a national politician, and I know he held office prior to that. So yes, he is highly accomplished. Yes, he's an older man. Yes, maybe sometimes he looks like a harmless Uncle Joe or whatever, but you have people in the Republican Party saying don't underestimate him.
By the way, if you haven't read the book Peril, you can gain an awful lot of insight into just how sharp Joe Biden is if you read that book. Okay. All right. I'm just saying, I learned things about the way he engineered the beginning of his administration post-Trump, and it was his doing. And,
right.
It was pretty impressive.
So there is a columnist or an opinion writer for the New York Times. I've seen him before, and he's pretty well known. The guy's name is Paul Krugman. Okay, Deb probably knows him pretty well too. And this is from an opinion piece last year, August 18th, 2022, from Paul Krugman, what Biden has and hasn't done. So I just, this hit me just the first sentence of it. There's something strange in the DC air these days. It smells a bit like competence. Okay, so and Paul Krugman has been a critic and has complimented Biden from time to time. He also mentioned in this article that, yes, there was a bit of a low bar at the time when Biden came in. However, he has surpassed that bar. Now, there is a website called Upworthy. This is is created by a PAC, and it also it does uplifting stories, but this is truthful. Joe Biden's 23 greatest achievements as president of the United States. So far, I'm going to read all of them. All of them. Okay. I'm going to nutshell it, but I'm going to read all of them. Pass a $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure package to increase investment in the national network of bridges, roads, airports, public transportation, and national broadband internet, as well as waterways and energy systems. And I'm going to add to that just a little bit. He also curtailed a potential devastating rail strike. And I know people didn't like how he had to do it. I wasn't, I understood it, though. I wasn't a fan of how it had to be done, but I understood it. This created a ton of jobs, was a contributor to his decreasing dramatically the unemployment rate.
The lowest in 50 years.
Lowest in 50 years. Helped get more than 500 million life-saving COVID vaccinations in the arms of Americans through the American Rescue Plan. Now, if you notice, he did not force those needles in anybody's arms. Those vaccinations helped to reduce the number of COVID cases, as well as reduce the after effects, the effects of it if you did get COVID, which Deb and I both, have experienced pre and post vaccination. Stopped a 30-year streak of federal inaction on gun violence by signing the bipartisan Safer Communities Act that created enhanced background checks, closed the boyfriend loophole, and provided funds for youth mental health. I do have a little bit of extra information on the whole boyfriend loophole thing. Made a $369 billion investment in climate change. Again, more jobs, more money towards a problem that you have to deal with. The Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. The fifth one ended the longest war in American history by pulling the troops out of Afghanistan, which of course the Republicans are going to do a major investigation on how he did that.
Yeah. Well,
which was set up by Donald Trump in the first place, by the way.
So let me just say that Donald Trump actually negotiated the end to this war. And when he did so, he spoke only to the Taliban. He did not speak to the actual acting government in Afghanistan. He literally negotiated only with a pack of terrorists, and that tracks because he's a fucking terrorist himself. So let's get it right here. The end of wars are never pretty. It wasn't pretty with Vietnam. It hasn't been pretty in any war. But he got us out of Afghanistan. When people were bitching that we were in Afghanistan, they were bitching because we're in Afghanistan. When we got out of Afghanistan, they bitched because of the way we got out. You're all sitting in an ivory tower. None of you understand what it takes. You know you want peace, and that's great, but you really don't understand the mechanism of getting there. So
all of this is connected. Now with the Ukraine, you have gas prices increased because of the war in Ukraine, and it's like you don't know. I don't know all the ins and outs of everything. That's why you have people in place. But
and this is the other thing about the Ukraine. Joe Biden never suggested that they negotiate a peace settlement. What makes you think Vladimir Putin wants a peace settlement? What makes anyone think that Vladimir Putin wants a peace settlement? Vladimir Putin was a high-ranking member of the KGB who never wanted the Soviet Union split up. He would love to have the Ukraine back. That's his end goal. His end goal isn't peace. His end goal is to be a dictator. Understand, you can't, you can, as my grandmother said, you can bring a horse to the trough, but you can't make him drink. He is not interested in peace.
By the way, a peace treaty to Putin is basically Zelensky being completely dethroned. That's what a peace treaty to him means. And Russia owning the Ukraine. I was just saying whatever. Providing 10. This is number 6. Providing $10,000 to $20,000 in college debt relief to Americans with loans who make under $125,000 a year. This is that whole thing that was being blocked in the courts. It was put in the 2023 budget. So I don't know where this is in terms of the court system and all of that, but Biden did do this. And the American Rescue Plan cut child poverty in half. Cap prescription drug prices at $2,000 per year for seniors on Medicare through, again, the Inflation Reduction Act. Passed COVID-19 relief that provided payments of up to $1,400 to many struggling U.S. citizens while supporting renters and increasing unemployment benefits, while getting tremendous pushback on this, by the way.
By the way, let me just say something. Everybody on the GOP side is now pushing him to end the whole COVID,
Right.
the whole COVID deal where, people get extra help. So he has made this determination that it will be in May. Now the GOP is saying, well, if you're going to end it, why not just end it now? People need to understand this. There are things that you get now as a result of that plan that you will no longer get, and it will impact people's lives. Don't blame Joe Biden for that. Don't blame Joe Biden for that. Okay? You can,
by the way,
go where you need to blame. You know what? Go to the voting booth and blame the party that's responsible for this by voting against them.
Why is he doing it in May? If anyone lives in New England right now, just walk outside, coat, no coat, whatever, and ask yourself, if you're a poor person and you were affected by COVID or you still have long haul effects, is it possible I might need to stay in a place during one of the bitterest winters of recent history? This is what he's thinking. Well, you know what? These guys who are struggling right now, if I end it now, these guys might be out in the cold and they might freeze to death. Okay, these are the things you got to think about. So, achieved historically low unemployment rates after the pandemic caused them to skyrocket. Now, again, I understand with the rail strike, and this wasn't one of the things that they mentioned, but think about what happened with Ronald Reagan with the air traffic controllers. He just kicked them out. Biden didn't do that. He was measured. He did what he had to do, but he was measured about it. He did understand what they were asking for. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get it. But at the same time, he didn't just kick people out of their jobs. But at the same time, he kept the rails going, which kept other people in work and kept the economy going. But at the same time, he put these other things in place that helped. By the way, in the meantime, he's not giving up on giving those rail workers and other workers sick leave.
Right.
Impose a 15% minimum corporate tax on some of the largest corporations in the country, ensuring that they pay their fair share. Again, part of the Inflation Reduction Act. Recommitted America to the Paris Agreement, which, Cheeto had basically said that was a giant waste of time, that blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Strengthen the NATO alliance in support of Ukraine after the Russian invasion by endorsing the inclusion of world military powers, Sweden and Finland. And number 14, authorize the assassination of the Al-Qaeda terrorist Amin al-Zawahiri, who became head of the organization after the death of bin Laden. Number 15, gave Medicare the power to negotiate prescription drug prices through the Inflation Reduction Act. Number 16, held Vladimir Putin accountable for his invasion of the Ukraine by imposing stiff economic sanctions, which did, by the way, in turn hurt us economically in some ways, but he had to do that. 17, boosted the budget of the Internal Revenue Service by $80 million.
By the way, that increase in the Internal Revenue Service, the GOP is telling you that they are going to be armed and coming to your house. You know what? That's another lie. They're not armed. Nobody's getting guns. And they're not there to investigate and torture the middle class. The reason the Internal Revenue Service was gutted to begin with, and that was largely done by the GOP, was to protect their rich cronies from being held to account for tax evasion. This has been put in place to ensure that those who are evading taxes and make a ton of money are caught. That's what this is for.
Right. So that reduced tax evasion and increased revenue. Number 18, created more jobs in 1 year, 6.6 million jobs than any other president in history. So
571,000 jobs last month alone.
And by the way, my wife works at home. Without decent broadband, she wouldn't be able to do that. She works, via internet and stuff. So yes, broadband is important. 19, reduced healthcare premiums under the Affordable Care Act as part of the American Rescue Plan. Number 20, signed the PACT Act to address service members' exposure to burn pits and other toxins, which was fought against by some Republicans. Number 21, signed the Chips and Science Act to strengthen America in manufacturing and innovation. Number 22, reauthorized the Violence Against Women Act through 2027. And number 23, halted all federal executions after the previous administration reinstated them after a 17-year freeze. And I don't remember exactly, Deb, there was a controversial execution, if I remember correctly, under Trump. Yeah. It was like all about race and, it seemed... It was like allegations that he was racially profiling, I think it was.
Would I be surprised? I don't know. I don't remember, but I do remember something about it.
Yeah. I remember it just came to mind, but Biden's accomplishments match up well with well-regarded former presidents. Now, understand that Biden had some unique challenges. He had the unique challenges of the fascist, far-right, crazy, stuff just coming up, welling up. You have the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world, the Jim Jordans of the world, the Kerry Lakes of the world, all of that on top of, just all of that coming up. Then on top of that, you have ending the war in Afghanistan. Then you have COVID. And you have to stay measured and figure out your response to your opponent trying to orchestrate an insurrection against you. So, but in the first 19 months of his presidency, President Joe Biden's accomplishments echo themes and priorities from the major initiatives of Presidents Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Dwight D. Eisenhower, Lyndon Johnson, and Ronald Reagan. And his infrastructure plan was a plan that Barack Obama actually wanted to institute, but was unable to. But against this, against this Congress, he was able to do it somehow.
I don't know what the, let's go back to the execution thing.
Yeah.
But under Trump, all I know is I'm not seeing it here, but he executed more people than the presidents that presided over the last 56 years combined during his time. And
right, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah. So
Biden did halt that.
But
right. When we do another show, I might go back to that well. But so this is just a little bit of information from the New York Times about how to save money, but a lot of this depends on whether or not you actually have money already to build up your home and do certain things. You have to go electric, but you can only really do that if you have cash up front to do that. So here's a link to look into it, but this is a direct result of the Inflation Reduction Act. So at the moment, you can start making plans for climate-friendly home makeovers with some help from your tax dollars. One of the goals of the $370 billion Inflation Reduction Act offers money to get rid of fossil fuels from your everyday life by electrifying your home and making it more energy efficient. And by the way, the reason that gas prices went down, and I'm not talking about home heating oil, but the reason that gas prices went down is because the demand went down. Part of that has to do with COVID and the fact that people are staying home more, but that's part of it. And there are also, not to go too far in the weeds, incentives on buying electric cars.
in Massachusetts, we have a thing called Mass Save, where they come out and take a look at your house and tell you how you can, improve it. We actually did it. We ended up insulating the attic, which saved on home heating oil. But yeah, you have to have money to spend to get that done. But you could save a lot too. There's a lot of perks that go with it. So
Right. All right. Can I get rid of Binax? Yeah, whatever. So this is pretty much mirrors a lot of stuff that we're talking about, but this is from Newsweek. Newsweek is a weird publication at this point. A lot of it is right wing, but there are sometimes they go the other way too. They mentioned the 1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure package. So
like, mentioned with the infrastructure package.
Yeah.
The thing I want everybody to understand is many members of the GOP did not vote for that.
Right.
It was passed along party lines. But let me just give you a tip. They had no problem going back and sticking their hand out and asking Biden for money so they could keep their constituents happy after the fact.
Right.
But they didn't want to support on a national level because they were literally told not to support it.
Right.
They had no problem going in the back door and asking Biden for money for their specific states so they could build bridges and every other goddamn thing. So there's a game that gets played here, folks. Okay. The GOP voted against this, but then they went back with their little money buckets looking for some help so they can make their constituents think they have to care about them.
I did want to mention one of the things that, let me see, go back to who wrote this. I want to give credit to him. Inigo Alexander. And this was, at the beginning of last year, so a little over a year ago, Inigo Alexander, he mentions that, or I think I say, Republicans and moderate Democrats feared the bill's high budget would likely contribute to ballooning inflation. But again, as Deb said, they had no money, no problem asking for the money, despite a group of 15 Nobel Prize-winning economists backing the bill. So,
when they say moderate Democrats, they're talking about Joe Manchin,
yeah,
Maserati Manchin.
and maybe Kyrsten Sinema. And by the way, we will be talking about how next week, or actually, sorry, 2 weeks from now, or maybe even 3 weeks from now, Joe Manchin is no longer should even be called a moderate Democrat, because now he's talking about the woke Democrat agenda, and he is treading into Republican territory. Yep. So we may very well have to just give that up and go hard after 2 or 3 more states, like Florida with Rick Scott or whoever.
Well, I think Rick Scott's vulnerable. We're going to go after that anyway. But, I think the time to find a primary challenger for Joe Manchin is here.
We have to do that. Okay. If we have to give that state up, we have to give that state up. But I don't want to. Right. Find a viable candidate. I don't think that it's Paula Jean Swearengin. There has to be someone out there. Has to. So I'm not going to go through all of this, because a lot of it, like the COVID relief deal, which, by the way, Deb and I had to use. But highest appointment of federal judges since Reagan. I did want to mention this. He appointed 41 federal judges in his first year at the White House, more than double than what Trump did. We have to continue to do this. I understand he also appointed people to the Board of Governors in the United States Postal Service. Things take time, okay? People don't just, it's not a game show. It's not like Donald Trump show, you're fired. These people aren't replaced wholesale like that.
This early in this year that he can appoint.
Right. The halt on federal execution. Let me see. Yeah. Pause does not enable the president to hold executions on the state level. Okay, so there were 13 federal executions under Trump. And I do remember there were allegations of profiling, from what I remember.
Because I think the majority of those were Black people.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Commitment to combating climate change. This is part of the woke agenda. Right. To me, and Deb and I have always said this, the Green New Deal is always pretty much, this is a citizen-initiated agenda. Right. Always had. You can't really over-legislate this. We either want it or we don't. But there are some things that we can do. Deb and her building, lead paint. Okay, you can't. There's certain things that you can't get at the hardware store anymore. Right. Leaded gas hasn't been available for forever.
Right. Let's take it one step further. Oil paints. Right. We don't carry any oil paints in our store. They still manufacture them, but they're waning. It's waning down now. They're getting out of that business. But people come in and say, "You don't have oil." We don't have oil because A, it's not good for the environment. And how about this one? B, if you get it on yourself, it's not good for you either.
Right.
All right. So no, we don't have oil paints. Everything is latex based. It's even outside your house now.
So in the first week of Biden's administration, he issued an executive order to overturn a Trump ban on openly transgender members of the U.S. military. These are people who want to join the military, for God's sake.
We don't mind white supremacists in there. Just don't let those trans people in. You know, we don't mind having all those nasty fucking MAGA people with their automatic weapons joining the military, but we don't want any trans people in there.
And by the way, I haven't heard this in a while, but people who are complaining about Nazis in the Ukrainian army, which there were in a couple of regiments that they mentioned, and there was a small percentage, but people were like, oh, they're Nazis. Imagine how many Nazis or how many white nationalists are there in our police force, in our military? Let
me just give you a little tip. When the Democrats filed a bill to root out white supremacists from the military and from the law enforcement across the nation, the GOP blocked that bill. So don't whine to me.
So the original ban for transgenders in the military was first announced by Trump during his first year in power, as former president tweeted that the U.S. military would cease to allow transgender Americans from serving in the military, claimed it imposed a tremendous medical costs and disruptions. Trump's ban came into effect in April 2019. Existing transgender personnel remained in service, but new recruits were turned away. According to the Department of Defense data analyzed by the nonprofit group Palm Center, there were approximately 9,000 active transgender troops in 2019. So 8,980 is the exact number. Biden's repeal represents a considerable step forward in the fight for transgender rights in the United States, though it has not been considered as pivotal as Barack Obama's 2010 decision to overturn Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Reduced unemployment dropped to 3.9%. Jobless claims sunk to the lowest level since 1969. When Biden took office, unemployment was at 6.3%. So,
can we go back to just one more time to transgender for one?
Yeah. If it lets me.
Well, no. I just want to make a commentary.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where he was, Donald Trump, but Jimmy Kimmel showed a clip of him stating that if he's reelected, there will be no transgenders in this country. There will only be two sexes, male and female. And his plan is to have no transgender people allowed here. You know, people, I don't know. I don't even know where to go with that. That's horrifying to me. You know, how is he going to achieve that? I'm afraid to even ask. But if you think I'm putting anything past anybody on the other side of the aisle at this point, the answer is no, I'm not. I don't like
to talk about Nazi Germany, because I know, but I don't. First off, it's people just focus on that part of it, but look at what the rhetoric is. It mirrors what that is. You're demonizing certain people based on their traits. Okay, wake up, for God's sake.
I agree.
I just wanted to mention this. There were two parts of this. The whole thing with the student loans. One was the $10,000 to $20,000 just a one-time payment towards people to help them pay off student loans, which was in the courts. And then another one, there is a provision with federal employees that if you pay for 10 years, there's a way to forgive student loans, but you have to, if you've been paying for 10 years and you didn't apply for it, you have to apply for it and then wait another 10 years. Biden forgave that. He basically gave us a back door and allowed us to apply and then possibly have some of that forgiven without having to wait another time, another amount of time. I know that there have been blocks in the court saying that he is superseding procedure and he's exceeding his power and all this stuff. He signed a year-end omnibus package into law, staving off a government shutdown, completing the budget cycle, and he did allocate $79.6 billion to the Department of Education. Okay. And it contained a $24.6 billion budget for federal student aid programs, including a $500 increase to the maximum Pell Grant award. So everybody was told they have to go to college. So this is and then you can't afford your student loan payments. This is a statement from January 23rd of this year on the introduction of gun safety. Now, this was not what a lot of people wanted in the beginning. A lot of people were up in arms about Uvalde, and they should have been, and we should still be. Deb tells me all the time, there was another one. There are shootings constantly.
39 in the month of January alone. 39 mass shootings in the United States of America.
That's just mass shootings.
Yeah, no other country has that. No other country has that record. None. That doesn't happen. In Canada, I can tell you in Canada, the gun laws there are so strong that they've had 11 shooting deaths in their history. It just doesn't happen in other countries. It doesn't happen in Japan. It doesn't happen anywhere. It happens only here. Only in America does this happen.
So I know Senator Feinstein, she will probably retire very soon, but he mentioned Senator Feinstein when he worked with her in '94 and talked about the last assault weapons ban and the fact that gun violence went down. Okay. Now, the climate is much different, and the right-wingers, the Republicans, and a lot of Democrats want their guns. Okay, there's a way to do it, but you don't have to have. What do you need an assault weapon for?
No one needs an assault weapon.
No one needs an assault weapon.
And I don't want to hear about the Second Amendment. Assault weapons weren't even around when the Second Amendment was written.
I did want to mention this. Yes, this is one of my emails, and yes, that is my zip code. I don't care if people know that. I already signed up for this. You can sign up for a message board, or like they'll give you messages, email you messages. This was a press briefing by Kareem Jean-Pierre and Jennifer Granholm, but I just wanted to mention that.
By the way, what that also says that we didn't talk about was that they introduced another assault weapons ban in the Senate.
Yeah, they did. They're not gonna stop trying to ban assault weapons.
No. But if you want that passed, should I say it again? You need to have a strong Democratic Party majority in order to overcome the filibuster. I'm just going to keep saying it.
Yep. So I wanted to mention this thing with the whole boyfriend loophole. This is from NPR. I wanted to mention this. So the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Let me see. Okay. So this is the boyfriend loophole. Prevents people of convicted domestic abuse from owning a gun. The law only currently applies to people who are married to, living with, or having a child with the victim. It doesn't include people who are dating people. Okay? Because we spend all this time dating, it doesn't mean that violence doesn't happen. This is April Zioli, professor of criminal justice and public health at Michigan State University. So still happens, but the dating partners right now aren't covered by federal restriction. So if you have a child by someone, also if you are, I believe it's if you were not married, the boyfriend is only prevented from having a gun for 5 years as opposed to forever,
Right.
as if you're married. Now, I don't understand that, but right now that's what it is. I don't know why this was so controversial. I really don't. The burn pit exposure health bill. This included people from the Vietnam War, for Christ's sake. Okay. It's the most significant law our nation has ever passed to help millions of veterans who are exposed to toxic substances during their military service. And they fought tooth and nail for this thing.
So, as I understand it, the first time it was introduced, it had to go through again because they changed the verbiage.
Yes, they did.
Okay, so when they changed the verbiage, the 25 people on the GOP side who originally signed it decided not to sign
They
it.
backed out. Yep.
Again, I just can't.
These are people who served their country, whether you believe in the military or not. Everybody talks about the military-industrial complex. These are people who served, okay, and they were adversely affected, and they need medical treatment. These people have been waiting, some of them for decades. It's ridiculous. So I wanted to put this in here in regards to the infrastructure bill. Now, all of those bills that I mentioned, you want to take a look at the specifics. You want to look at the pork and all of that stuff. You can research them. They're all out there. All of the bills are out there. Trust me. But what Deb mentioned before is that people don't even know that this was passed. Most people are fans of, and this is an article. What was this? Sarah Ferris. This is July of 2022. Most people are fans of Joe Biden's $550 billion infrastructure bill, $550 billion infrastructure bill, except they don't know it's been passed. That's the conclusion of new polling that promises to further rattle the Democratic Party. Okay. 8 months after Congress cleared the landmark legislation to overhaul the nation's roads, bridges, rails, and broadband, only 24% of voters are aware it's now in law, according to polling by the center-left think tank Third Way and Impact Research that was shared first with Politico. So and this is part of why Deb was pounding on me to do this. Deb, what do you think? Should I find these bills and put them in on the
Can't hurt.
yeah,
You know,
but
I do understand that, you know, I do think that the Democrats failed to promote it as much as they could have. I do.
right. Right.
There's no question about that. But you know, I keep going back to the fact that it's incumbent on the people to fucking be aware of what's going on in their country. And a certain amount of that requires you to keep up with it. You know, you've got all this time to sit on Facebook and Twitter and, you know, talk about shit, you know,
Right.
and, you know, it doesn't hurt to be aware of things, and you can make yourself aware of things. You know, you can look shit up. You can look up recipes, so you can look this shit up too. I keep saying this shit. People need to get away from memes and start looking at real information. Okay.
Right.
That's all I'm going to say. All right. It's up to you. I know what's going on in my state. I know what kind of laws are going on here. I know what kind of shit's up at the legislature. I know what's going on nationwide, because the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is look at the newspaper, and I look at it online. So I don't know what to tell you. There's a certain amount of this that falls on the backs of the American people.
Deb knows that I'm pretty much on it too. Deb knows that I'm aware of what's going on in New York. You know, I'm on top of that. But
and I don't want to hear that we're too busy. What the fuck are you too busy with? I get it. Okay. I work 32 hours a week and I still do it. You can do it. It's not tough.
And I work 40, and on top of that, I do this show, which, although this is part of it, and I'm a union rep, and I'm also, other things. So I do get it. If you're not interested, fine, but don't talk about it. You know what I mean? So don't come to me and start. All of this doesn't happen in a bubble. There are certain things that we're not aware of, and I understand that. So, and if you really want to listen and get into it and listen to it from other perspectives other than the right-wing nutbag perspective, that's fine. By the way, I forgot about this. One of his greatest achievements, apparently, is also shooting down a Chinese spy satellite. Guys, he didn't want to shoot down a spy satellite when it could potentially fall in a highly populated area. He wanted to wait so that spy satellite, people are like, oh, the weather balloon or whatever it is, was a spy satellite. It was shot down.
Everybody knows it wasn't a weather balloon. That's number one. Number two, he told the Pentagon to shut it down last Wednesday. The Pentagon suggested to him it might be good to wait until it's over a better area so that there's no danger to people. They waited till it went over the ocean. Right. And by the way, all of the statements on Twitter from Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert about our little friend, the orange jackaloon, would never have allowed that to happen. Be aware of this. There were 3 Chinese spy satellites that infiltrated the United States during Donald Trump's tenure that were never dealt with. So don't fucking open your mouth until you know what you're talking about. Shut the fuck up. I just can't anymore. I just can't. All right. It's a fact. Those are facts. Those are documented facts that are within the government archives. Okay. So stop already.
So okay. Deb and I both know, because I do this every year. We know that the American public pays attention to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, but they especially pay attention to the Super Bowl. Okay, next week is a Super Bowl. We're not going to do a show. We're going to watch it primarily for advertising campaigns, because there's one thing that people love to pay attention to, and that's Super Bowl ads. Here we go.
Even though the very
God.
same people, espouse the virtues of, hating capitalism. Let's get real, folks. Americans love this stuff. Okay.
And by the way, I did give Deb, this was a Biden show, so I didn't want to go crazy. And I may mention it next week or even put the articles in there. There was one Biden offensive lineman, or Biden, oh my God, one Philadelphia Eagles offensive lineman who was just indicted on rape right before the Super Bowl. And the main concern is that he won't be able to play in the Super Bowl.
Poor baby, huh? Maybe you should have thought about that. I don't know. You know what? Again, I can't. You know what? I can't.
And there's another Cincinnati Bengals player, running back, aggravated menacing. He pulled a gun on some girl in a nightclub or something. What the hell? Okay, look.
Low character. I don't know what to tell you.
I understand people like their football. I like to watch football too, but that has no place in any workplace whatsoever. Those people should not have jobs.
Agreed.
And they should be in jail. So, but people love their advertising. They love their Super Bowl advertising. Here we go. He gets us organizers to spend $20 million to promote Jesus during the Super Bowl as part of a 3-year, $1 billion campaign. Hobby Lobby CEO is among donors pumping money into a Christian group set on redeeming the Savior's brand. Now, this is David Green. This is a campaign linked to anti-LGBT rights organization Alliance Defending Freedom, and it's the Christian community is condemning the $20 million advertising budget as it could have been used to house the homeless.
Exactly.
I agree with that.
Let me just also say this. They're going to promote Jesus as being inclusive in these ads. Yet
Right.
This entire thing is funded by some of the most virulently anti-LGBT groups in America. You know what? This is all a bunch of freaking hogwash. Jesus doesn't need to be branded, okay? This is the last thing that we need to be doing with Jesus, is turning him into a fucking nationwide commodity. This is beyond sick. This has nothing to do with putting Jesus into people's lives. This has everything to do with empowering the Christian right.
I didn't even mention that, or I didn't even notice that before. I'm going to check this in real time. Let's see what. Let's see. He gets us, has an agenda.
Yeah, he gets us all right.
Oh, look, there's a dinner party. Oh, look, there's a black guy with a white skinhead. Jesus Christ. How does artificial intelligence imagine Jesus's love? Holy, what?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
He invited everyone to sit at his table. Yeah, just like the Christian right does.
Now, they won't feed them or allow them medical care. Did Jesus have fun? Jesus. How did Jesus deal with injustice? Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, this is such a bunch of hogwash. Really.
Jesus lived in the middle of a culture war too, and though his politics were different, the contention, debate, and animosity were similar. Would Jesus have voted for Joe Biden?
Listen to me. I want you to understand about this thing, right? what they're doing here is making it look like this applies to today, but what they really want to do is bring this back to where it used to be.
Yeah.
Years ago. I mean, years ago. Okay.
Right.
Centuries ago.
We're talking 32 AD, by the way.
Right. Yeah, people need to understand this. It's amazing.
Oh my God. Oh.
By the way, the guy that owns the Hobby Lobby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime you think he's inclusive, maybe you ought to try working there. Maybe you ought to try shopping there. Maybe.
You know, I wonder if we could. Deb, do you have a Hobby Lobby there?
There's a Hobby Lobby in Framingham.
You should apply. Go there in whatever regalia you want to go there and say, hey, I heard he gets us. Will you?
I might have to do that.
Yeah.
I just might have to do that. If he gets us, you're going to hire me, right? Right?
Unbelievable. Oh my God.
If I thought religion was a joke before this, it's going to be a laugh riot after this is over. That's all I'm going to say. There'll be no credibility left for me.
What happened to Marcy? Did she?
I don't know. Shall we end this conversation? I'm going to end the video.
Yeah.
I'll just stop the recording.
I hope you guys get us.
Yeah. Because if you don't, I'm really sorry.
Oh
but
my
I think
God.
you better get us real soon.
Yeah, but we'll be talking I don't know if we'll do one on Monday.
You want to do Monday? I think we should do
we'll
Monday.
see. We'll see. I mean, if I see something, if I go, oh my God, I have to do a short show on Monday. This is insane. I'll let you know. But we're going to be continuing this at least in a couple of weeks. We might do a short show on Monday, but understand Biden is being overshadowed by right-wing insane advertising. This is what you guys were complaining about the left for, okay? You guys were complaining about money infusing in politics on the left. Now look at the monster that is being created on the right side. We'll see what happens. We'll see what else is. We'll have avocados and Jesus being advertised during the Super Bowl. Jesus Christ!
You just took his name in vain. What the hell's wrong with you? Let me just say this: we may not have a show next Sunday. We will have one a week from Sunday for sure, and I will be making videos all the way through the week. That's my new thing, Yeah. I will continue on here. We will be talking about the 2024 election moving forward. We need to do this, folks. This is the last shot, really. Honestly, we should have had the House and the Senate in a landslide at the midterm level. I'm going to say it again. 52% of registered Democrats showing up at the polls when you can vote by mail and every other which way now. With early voting and everything else,
right?
There's no fucking excuse for this. And again, I want to say this. Democrats who are out there saying shit like, well, I didn't vote for him because he's not liberal enough or he's not progressive enough. You're looking at a choice between fascism and having a chance to vote again, ever. This is what I'm telling you. There may be not another time for you to wait for anyone else. This is not a drill. So get a clue right now, because for the next year and a half, the subject is going to be where we're going. I am now updating the website. It's going to be all rewritten and retooled for 2024. You need to get on the stick, okay? By the way, February 7th, there are special elections in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania. February 7th, that is Tuesday. That is my birthday. I know, it is on Tuesday. I put them in Telegram to you today.
Okay. I will check. The Super Bowl will have passed there, and when they do ads like that, they typically do them in the city but it's after the Super Bowl anyway, so I'll take a look at that.
I'm gonna post that. I'm gonna post those special elections. It's on the Ballotpedia piece. I'm gonna post those in Facebook and everywhere else.
Now those,
and I may do a video on them,
like city councils and stuff like that.
I don't know.
I have to check. I have to check.
Let me stop the recording. But
one more thing, you guys, again, what Deb just said. You guys didn't want Adam Frisch because he wasn't progressive enough. So you got Lauren Boebert. You didn't want the guy in the New York district because he wasn't progressive enough, even though he was. I thought he was decent. You got George Santos. Wake up.
Talk to you later, dimwits.